Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first Facebook Live broadcast. As those of you who joined a little bit early, we're able to see that we're a little clunky with this technology so far, so thank you for joining us a few minutes early as we're testing this and getting used to the software. It's a really strange time that we're all in, of course, staying at home, doing our bit to help to prevent the spread of this virus, and that is taking a considerable toll on the lives of people in our community. The purpose of tonight's Facebook Live broadcast is essentially to share a bit of information with you, the front end of the broadcast, probably for about 15 minutes or so. I'm going to go over some of the key information segments, much of which I'm sure you have already picked up from the extensive broadcasting that's going on both by our main news stations and even locally. After that, we're going to take your questions, and you can go use the chat function on your Facebook page to send your questions. I'm joined in tonight's broadcast by two of my colleagues on my staff, Curtis Schluter. Curtis is my executive assistant, and he's going to be the moderator on the call to send over your questions once we get to that. So if you have some questions, even as I'm explaining some of the programs, he'll keep track of those and send them over to me on the same kind of channel. We hope this is going to work. Je dois indiquer aussi, je vais inviter vos questions en français ou en anglais et la réponse va être dans la langue qui était utilisée dans la question. So we're going to do our best to manage this tonight. If it works well, and I should say I'd appreciate your comments on the show. If there's things about the show that you seem to work well, or those that didn't, I appreciate hearing those as well. If this ends up being a good format that we can stay in touch with you over this next period of time, we're certainly going to use that. One of the things just in your questions, when you put questions up on Facebook, of course, all of the audience tonight will see those. So you may not want to share any sort of personal information there. Make your questions general, of course. And obviously, we encourage you to use respectful language. All comments are welcome, even comments that are critical. It's just as important for us to hear comments that are of concern to people about the programs, or even about my own program here in the riding in terms of how we're reaching out to you. So I want to hear that as well. So now we may not get to everyone's question in the course of the broadcast. We'll do our best. We've left ourselves a bit of time to make sure that we can do our best to get to everybody. So let's proceed, and I'm just going to go through a little bit of information. First of all, let me just tell you how this is going to be segmented. A couple of minutes on a bit of health information just for you here at home, here in Simcoe County. I'm sure you have good access to this already, but we'll talk a little bit about where you can get good health information pertaining to the coronavirus and COVID-19. Secondly, I'm going to start and just discuss the key highlights of some of the programs as it relates to workers, businesses, students, and families. And then we'll a few minutes just on where things are at with the economy and what Parliament is doing. And after we get done that part, we're going to go to your questions. So let's go back up. We're going to just talk a little bit about health information. Now, you will know that the best place to get good information here in this district, in the county of Simcoe, is the Simcoe-Muskoka District Health Unit. They have been very good about getting information out to the public on how you should, well, first of all, what the status of the situation is here in the county, but also where you should be directing questions around health and access to the kind of health information you need. So the Simcoe County Health Unit, they are helping, for example, to run assessment centers in different parts of the county. There's assessment centers in Orillia and in Midland. And so they're kind of the first place to go, I would say, for important health information for our district. Secondly, there is from Health Canada. You may see from time to time with the panels that report to us daily on either CBC or CTV. Health Canada has a big presence there with Dr. Teresa Tam. Health Canada also has a great little app for your smartphone. You can download an app. It's a Health Canada coronavirus COVID-19 app. And in that program, there's lots of information about current statistics, how to get good resources, some practical tips on minding the important tasks that we have each and every day, not just social distancing, but what some of the practices are that are helpful in making sure that we do our part to keep people safe. Also important information there regarding travel, around self-isolating, which is, has been kind of a moving target here. It's one of the things we've had some difficulty keeping up with. These are the programs and the information we have is changing and evolving over this period of time. And so we're doing our best to keep up with that. And I'll come back to that later in the broadcast just to give you an idea of where we should be going to get that information as it changes. Now, let's talk a little bit about the programs. Probably the single biggest application in terms of the number of people here in our riding, getting help for income support while they're off work. Their businesses have been closed because they're non-essential or whatever the case may be. The Canada Emergency Response Benefit, the CERB, is the key program for that. That is open now. That's a program that I'm told is close to 6 million applications have gone on across Canada for the CERB. The CERB is that important program that provides those that are out of work up to $2,000 per month. It's a non-taxable amount of money. And we just heard yesterday that the CERB is being expanded to, for example, include seasonal workers. And we'll also be seeing some additional benefits there for people who are working less than $1,000 a month in earnings that initially were not included in the CERB or not eligible, will now be eligible under that program. So there are a lot of moving parts here, and we recommend that if you are out of work and you're looking to get some income support during that time, that you get in touch with us about the CERB. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a little bit of water here. Excuse me for using a plastic water bottle. It wasn't my choice here, but we were quick getting to the broadcast, but I need some moisture. That's better. Now, as we move on here, there's another important program for workers. Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy. Wage subsidy is also going to be there for businesses to help people who are off work, but or for which their business has been closed, but they can get additional support even if they have to stay at home. Their employer can apply for a 75% wage subsidy even if they continue to take a leave, in other words, a paid absence, if they're not able to work. That's something that you'll want to talk to your employer about. It's a really key program for making sure that businesses are able to retain their workforce over this period of time and be ready when the economy opens up again. So again, for businesses, it helps them pay for staffing requirements during this period of time, even if the workers are on leave. Okay, moving for more specifics on businesses, we have Canada Emergency Business Account. Now, this is a loan program for businesses that have essentially need to help cover some of their fixed costs during this period of time when there's no income coming in. They can work through their regular lender to get up to $40,000. It's a no interest loan, for which if they are able to repay the balance of that loan by the end of December 2022, they get a 25% repayment bonus. I'm going to switch over to Curtis here for a minute. I'll let Curtis explain a little bit more of that business subsidy.
Hi, everybody. There we go. My mic is on. Thank you for your patience, everyone. So just going over the actual wage subsidy. The Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy covers 75%. Oh, sorry, the business account. So the Canada Business Account, just pull that up on my screen here, is going to provide $40,000 of interest-free loans to small businesses and not-for-profits to help cover their operating costs during a period where the revenues have been temporarily reduced. In order to qualify, organizations will need to demonstrate they paid between $20,000 to $1.5 million in total payroll in 2019. In order to apply for the CEBA, as it's called, business owners will need to apply through their banks or credit unions. Okay, we'll just jump over to the BDC. Just pull that up here.
I'm not sure if we have a BDC. Not sure if we have a BDC graphic.
Yeah, I don't think we have that graphic here.
The BDC, is basically a lending institution that also has other lending products available for businesses. They have a regular suite of lending products that will help businesses sort of get over this period of time. More often than not, this is different than the Canada Business Account, where it's specific to that $40,000. If businesses are looking for additional lines of credit, BDC will work with them through their regular lender. They'll have access to products from BDC. And this has been helped by the Government of Canada putting additional loaning or lending capacity for lending institutions right across the country. For example, CMHC took a lot of their existing mortgages off the books of the banks so that they'll have more room to lend. So let's move to students and families. A few key notes here is with regards, first of all, to the Canada Summer Jobs Program. We're right now in the throes of talking to employers that may have signed up for Canada Summer Jobs Program. What's interesting to note here is that any of those private sector applicants who get awarded under the Canada Summer Jobs Program, their jobs will now be 100% subsidized. Normally it was 50%. It's now going to be 100%. And also they can continue that program right through until February 2021. And Service Canada, or the program, will allow businesses more flexibility in re-tasking some of that work for students. Especially if they might have applied initially for a particular kind of job description, that can now change to a job that might be more suited to the kind of situation we're under here with COVID-19. Another thought for students, those that have student loans, the repayment of student loans has been extended now out to September 2020. So, anybody who is sort of finishing school and about to start repaying their loans, really about another 6 months grace period before they'll have to start paying that. For families, the government announced early on that there would be a bump up in the Canada Child Benefit. And that's going to be starting next month, in the month of May. That's an extra benefit on top of your Canada Child Benefit that you're getting now. It'll be $300 per child. It's a one-time payment. It'll come in the month of May. And then rounding out our sort of discussion around measures for different segments of our community. For seniors, two main things there. One is the GST HST credit. So for people who are getting that credit on an unusual basis, usually modest to low income seniors, or frankly anybody who gets that GST HST credit. In this month, it actually started around April 9th. You'll be eligible for up to $400, pardon me, for a single person, and up to $600 for couples. Also for seniors is a change with the retirement savings on income funds. And I'm going to swing over to Curtis to let you discuss more about that.
Hello, everybody. Thank you again. So the first support is the registered retirement income funds. So essentially the government has introduced a measure that reduced the minimum required withdrawals from registered retirement income funds by 25% for 2020. An additional item for seniors is the government is contributing $9 million through United Way for local organizations to support financial services to Canadian seniors. These services include delivery of groceries, medications, or other needed items, or personal outreach to assess individuals' needs and connect them with community supports. And the final item is with regards to an older program called the New Horizons for Seniors program, the 2019-2020 stream. Any projects that were granted funds through that program will be able to use their funding to provide immediate and essential services to seniors impacted by COVID-19.
Okay, now just carrying on, I'm gonna just, that sort of wraps up a little bit of an overview of the key programs. There are other measures, I should say, and I'd be happy to talk to you a little bit more about that. Let me say a word or two about the road ahead, not just for our local economy, but also for Parliament. We've heard loud and clear that while it's an incredible thing that we're asking people to do, to stay home, cease all activities, all gatherings. We're going through a period of time that most of us have never had to experience. And it takes a considerable toll in terms of the usual things that we're accustomed to doing, especially this time of year as the weather gets a little nicer. Let me just say that all of the things that we're doing by doing this is preventing more cases of COVID-19. It's very clear when we look at the data that the measures, the practices, the habits that people are taking up, they're listening to the experts and what we should be doing, and it is working. We're seeing less hospitalizations, less cases on a per capita basis than many parts around the world. So all of these measures are working. We're having a very positive effect on the quality of health, limiting the reach of this virus, and that's saving lives. There's no doubt there will come a time here where we'll be able to reopen the economy, as we've heard from the Premier and from the Prime Minister. This is still some weeks away, but there will be a time where we'll be able to turn our attentions to a program of recovery to get the economy running again, provided that it can be done safely and done in a period of time that will be ramped up in such a way that we can gradually and safely and steadily reopen our economy. But we're not there just yet. We're going to keep doing what we do to keep people safe. From Parliament's work, you may know that there has been 2 recalls of Parliament in the last several weeks, one just this last Saturday. And we expect another one on Monday coming up. We're yet to see what that schedule looks like. But it's fair to say that Parliament will continue to function. It has to allow the government to pass its legislation and still allow opposition members to pose questions and make inquiry of the government. But we'll be doing this in a way that's safe for parliamentarians and keeping social distance, making sure there's limited travel, all of the things that will help Parliament function, focused exclusively on COVID-19, I should say. No other business is going to be transacted other than that series of a period of time, as you may have seen in Committee of the Whole, where members of Parliament can ask questions of the government. It's important to have that kind of transparency. The House has also agreed to expand the number of operating committees that will be working by video conference to continue to pose questions, bring witnesses, and keep an attention on the key work of government. So we started initially with the Health and Finance Committee. Just last week, we've added 3 other committees will be operating: Industry, Science, and Technology, 1, Government Operations, a 2nd, and Human Resources, Skills, and Development. So those committees will be operating by video conference. And in addition to that, the Procedures and House Affairs Committee will be looking over the next several weeks, and they're supposed to report to Parliament on the 15th of May, a look at how a virtual Parliament might look. So they're going to look into possibilities where more MPs could participate in lawmaking. I doubt on voting so much, because that would be very difficult to do, but who knows? Procedures and House Affairs Committee will be looking at that. So I hope I've probably taken a few too many minutes there, and I do apologize for the brief interruption there where I had to sort of clear my throat and get my voice working again. That was kind of strange, but there we go. I must be nervous. Perhaps it's because it's the first time that we're doing this. Who knows? So let's take your questions. I'm going to click over. What I have here is Curtis is going to be moderating the questions, and then he's going to copy and paste those over to me. So the first question is from Tim, and he's asking, he runs a medical office, and right now office income is down about 80%. Planning to apply for the 75% wage subsidy for staff salaries. That's a good idea. And understands that lasts 12 weeks. Is there anything planned after that? So some excellent points in there, Tim. The wage subsidy runs for a period of from March 15th until the 6th of June. You're exactly right, 12 weeks. The government has not signaled that it's prepared to extend beyond June 6th just yet, but it has made it very clear that nothing is off the table here. So if we're not at a point where the economy can start to pick up after that, can't take me to the bank on this, but I would say, much as we've seen in other situations, the government will show a willingness to make sure it's supporting Canadians during this time. What's key there with the 75% is you can rehire your staff. If they haven't gone, they can't have the CERB and the wage subsidy. So if they've been getting some CERB, you can rehire them, pay them, keep them on paid leave because your office is closed anyway, and pay them that 75 cents on the dollar. That's a benefit to them. And you get a full subsidy through your Canada Revenue business account to be able to support that. We expect that wage subsidy to be open in a matter of days. The legislation was passed last Saturday, so watch for that coming up. We have a question. Thanks for that, Tim. Brandon asks, wondering if you'd be willing to touch on post-secondary students, recent graduates, and others who are not currently supported through CERB, the CERB, and other programs. So we're waiting on, yesterday there was an announcement regarding the seasonal workers are now available for the CERB. What that tells me is that anybody, students or others, who had work lined up for this spring and into the summer, and those businesses are now closed, or those offices or other things that may be now closed because they're non-essential, you will be eligible for the CERB. Again, we're waiting on the details around that, but sit tight. If you were a student who maybe didn't have something lined up for the summer, it's not clear whether that's going to be eligible. So stand by on that. And a second part of Brandon's question, we willing to join Don't Forget Students, hashtag Don't Forget Students. Yes, absolutely. We'll be happy to put that in there. As you know, Brandon, there's lots of students in our area that rely on that seasonal employment, and we want to make sure that they'll be able to get some income support during this time. Okay, Brenda, how do we deal with the flood of people coming to cottage country? Oh my goodness, we're getting lots of mail on this, Brenda. Look, the government of Ontario has been, and our local MPP and others have been out trying to persuade people not to be coming to their cottages. It's difficult. We can't sort of start putting checkpoints up on roads and so on. I mean, the logistics of doing that would be, especially in Ontario, where the critical highways and roadways are necessary for our supply lines, it would be very difficult to do that. But let us just say that I think we always want to be polite and respectful to our cottage community. They do support us in many ways, but we have to politely tell them that this is not the time for them to be here. So we're gonna get some messaging on that ourselves, and continue to let the province of Ontario know that this is a major concern. So we, in the meantime, we're persuading cottage owners to, shelve their return to cottage country for the time being, and we'll be glad to do that. But as far as any specific police measures to prevent that, we're not seeing anything on that just yet. Kirk is asking, provincial government has indicated the fishing season will start as normal. Will local businesses and services be available to service fishermen, launches and that sort of thing? At this point, Kirk, it does not appear so. Anything that's kind of recreational activities, especially transient recreational, where we're encouraging people to sort of move around, even when it's outdoors. I mean, it's good for people to be outdoors, get some fresh air, get a bit of exercise, but we got to keep social distance and minimize outdoor gatherings, because even in outdoor gatherings, when people are socializing, there's a risk that we're going to see the possible spread of this virus. Remember, none of us are immune, none of us have immunity with this virus. Our systems have not been exposed to it. We can pick it up. You've seen some of the reports that, yes, it certainly is very tough for people who are elderly, but there's a lot of people, even in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, that when they contract this virus, it's giving them a real tough time. Upwards of 15% of people who contract this is severe enough to be hospitalized, and 5% of that 15 goes into critical care. So we really can't take any chances with this. Peter asks on a more personal question, can you let him know what we will follow up with him? Okay, all right. So Peter, if you can get us that question perhaps by email, we'll be happy to take your question, and we'll get back to you as soon as I can. You can contact me at just bruce.stanton@parle.gc.ca. On my website. I'll give you my contact information at the end of the broadcast. Claire asks, what are the issues around Parliament being held virtually? Okay, Claire, what the Procedures and House Affairs Committee, as I mentioned, is the one looking at that. What they will be considering is how Parliament might be able to function beyond that small quorum that you've seen working in the House of Commons. The House of Commons is a big place, as you know, 338 seats in there, but we can't put all the members in there at any one time. So could we use technology to allow members to participate in debate on bills, on questions, in the normal things that the House takes up, but do so by way of video conferencing is essentially what they're looking at there. And they have to report that by the 15th of May. It's very clear, though, for at least the foreseeable time, up until at least mid-May, I will not see Parliament going back, I doubt, with anything more than the small quorum that we've seen before. Good question. Tracy, clarify the rules for residents on the lake. Are we allowed to kayak or swim? That's a very good question. I'd say if you have a private residence with waterfront, I don't see any anything different about you taking a swim at your shoreline property than it would be any different than taking a walk, as long as you're getting exercise, and there's nothing wrong with that. As far as kayaking goes, aside from making sure you've got your PFD on and are being safe with that, don't really see an issue. But the key thing is that you're not doing it in a social sense. There won't be launches and activities, and marinas are essentially shut down for all but people for whom the marina is their home, like their boat slip or something like that. But it's very, very limited. So I don't know, honestly, that there's no real rules in place there. It might be a good question for your local municipality. But if you want to send us an email there, Tracy, we'd be happy to follow that up for you. Nick is asking if someone's a permanent part-time essential worker and earning less than $2,500 a month, does that person qualify for the wage subsidy introduced yesterday? Okay, so I'm not sure if Nick might be thinking about yesterday the Prime Minister announced that there was going to be additional monies available for people who are anybody that's working in. We're waiting to see what jobs this entails, but if you're a frontline healthcare worker working on the front lines of this COVID-19 crisis, and you're earning less than $2,500 per month, there is going to be a top-up of $1,000 per month. That will be federal monies that can come to you. Again, we're waiting on details for that, what types of jobs that includes. But if you're permanent, you're in your part-time and you're working, you can be on the CERB. Again, another new thing that's come along just this week. You can be on the CERB and earn up to $1,000 a month without it impacting your CERB benefit. Okay, so so if you're working, you're getting about $1,000 a month through a bit of part-time work. There is the ability to be eligible now for CERB. Initially, if you had any earnings at all, it didn't seem that you'd be eligible. Oscar's Variety, great store. There are some that were laid off just weeks before the government implementation of CERB. So let's say March 15th is that date. Yet it was due to COVID-19. Are these individuals unable to change their EI to CERB? If they applied for EI prior to March 15th, they'll go through the EI stream. And so they'll just sit tight. But anybody who came in after the March 15th, anybody who applied after March 15th, it'll go into the CERB stream. Back to those applicants for Oscar's Variety. If they had their EI application in prior to March 15th, the EI benefit should respond. Again, if you have any issues with that, give us a shout, and we'd be happy to take a look at that for you. So there's not too many more questions, so I think we're going to, for this time around, and thank you, by the way, some very, very thoughtful questions there, and I appreciate you joining in to kind of hear where we're at. If this works well and my voice holds up, we'll try this again next week, and at that time we'll concentrate on any new information that's coming along. So I just want to, as we sort of wrap up here, and I know that not to repeat what we hear said so eloquently by our various leaders, provincially, municipally, and federally, of course, but there's a tremendous number of people in our riding that are just pulling out all the stops to make sure that we get through this very well. And they certainly, first and foremost, are healthcare workers, people in nursing homes that are providing frontline care for people who are having a tough go. be it through COVID-19 or other illnesses or conditions. Our first responders, the people that are out on the front lines, and all the essential workers out there, the people stocking our shelves, the truckers, the cashiers, the people that are making sure that our electricity and our internet and our gas and our transportation systems are all running, farmers that are growing our food. I was on a call earlier today, 40% of all the food that is grown by our farmers is going directly to Canadian food processors that are getting it put into product and packaging, and so that it can get out to our shelves very quickly. So I really want to just feather in the cap of these people and just a big thank you to all of them for what they do, for what you do each and every day. And finally, just this sort of, in terms of contacting me, I want to let you know our offices are, even though we're not able to take visitors in person, both our offices in Midland and Orillia are fully staffed every day. We're taking calls. A couple of us are working from home. We are working from home where we can. But those that are in there we're taking lots of phone calls and responding to a lot of emails. But do reach out to us. We know that Service Canada offices are closed right now. We're happy to step into the breach there and help where we can, and all the information is up there online. If you can, by all means, check this Facebook page for information on next week's broadcast. We don't have a specific date just yet, but as soon as we have that set up, we'll get that information out to you. I want to thank Curtis for joining me on the call tonight. And Curtis is answering a lot of the mail these days, so he's really keen on a lot of the detailed stuff. And I'm doing a bit of that myself too. And also to David Dalrymple, who is our show director tonight. And I promised you this was going to be a little bit clunky, and sure enough it was. But we're all just sort of finding our level with this and kind of finding our sea legs to make sure these broadcasts work well. So I want to thank them for helping out tonight. And again, watch our Facebook page for next week. Je vous remercie pour vos attentions. Il n'était pas une question en français ce soir, mais la prochaine fois, certainement, j'invite les questions ou les commentaires en français aussi. Alors, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, and enjoy your evening. Stay healthy.